We are back for another Base X conversation this week. I'm here with Steve again. I must admit, it's certainly still a bit strange to sit down and have a conversation with you in a serious tone.
Sure.
But we're going for it. So today we're going to go through everything compliance and doing things the right way. I feel like there's an opportunity for us just to provide a bit of education and a bit of a learning experience for some people out there in what we do and some of the experiences that we've seen. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. And well, it's a great topic, and obviously at the moment it's quite an important topic to discuss. And I think from my observation, it's been mainly around legislation in Australia and doing the right thing. But if I were to look at our organisation and how we've set things up, and I would think about the best organisations who are doing offshoring and growing teams globally the right way, I reckon this is probably the best subject I've seen in quite a while. And I'm excited because you, White, actually had a pretty good story come through only a couple of weeks ago that really talks to the impact that this can have on businesses, but also on people. And I think it's far too often that we forget that as an organisation, we're still working with people every day. There isn't an on and off switch. And sometimes you may want that, but that's not how life works.
Yeah.
And so impactful decisions that can happen with the stroke of a pen can really, really play a big part in really taking apart and pulling apart people's lives without really thinking about it and cause a bit of destruction. But I wanted to have a chat actually, and I know you're probably looking to me to talk about this. And of course, in my particular role here, I'm fully focused on our compliance with our entity in Australia and obviously our entity here in the Philippines that all of our staff are part of, and we do the right things by both government bodies and pay our bills, etc. But you told me a story recently that probably frustrated me a little bit, and I don't tend to show my emotions except when I get super excited. But I think it would be well worth sharing a story that you had recently.
Yeah.
And talk to us a bit about what happens in your course of what happens day to day for our acquisition team in the talent space, and what were the things that you found out that we think we should share and make sure that we all do the right thing, because we all can make quite a big impact here, but also just do things how they should be done ethically.
Yeah, totally. You're asking me to get into story mode.
I'd like you to talk me through, I would like to hear about it, but I'd like you to just talk to us about the impact on the people.
Yeah.
From their expectations, from what it meant from them.
Yeah.
But also, how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
And from one afternoon, having a weekend off and relaxing, thinking you're coming back to work the next day, to a Monday morning and learning that things have changed without you knowing, and that was it. I'm really curious as to how that came past your desk.
Well, look, there's so many layers to it, and we're smiling and laughing, but it is quite it pulls at the heartstrings moment, and for us, we want to help people. So we want to help clients, but we also want to provide careers for the people that join us and the candidates, and there's great people that are wanting to join us. So I'll just unpack the story without naming names or going through too much specific information. But what I'd say is our model's based on a structure that has a Philippines entity, employee-employer relationship. So when we hire a person, they are hired via or through our Philippines entity as a full-time employee.
Okay.
And that's the first layer. That's what we do. We know that there's other models that people choose to do, such as, I don't know, let's say direct contracting roles. And so in this case, we had... it must have been five people apply for our job, and it was very clear on the resume that they had come from the same organisation.
Okay.
And we interviewed all five of those people in the same week. And I guess what was really sad to hear is, I'd preface it by saying they're all on direct contracts with an Australian business.
Okay. What does that mean? I'm just going to stop you and pause you just so we're really clear for the audience.
Yeah.
When you're talking about direct contract versus coming through an employer in the Philippines as a registered entity. What does direct contract mean?
A direct contract is an Australian business. So a ABC Accounting Pty Ltd.
Sure.
Having basically a contracting role
Right.
straight with an offshore, in this case, Philippines person.
Okay, interesting. So what that means is that particular person is almost a subcontractor in some regards.
Yep.
However, they work directly for that firm,
Yep.
typically on a full-time basis.
They do. And typically the person has to do their own taxes. So the Australian business pays the person into their account in one way or another. And the person that receives the money has to do their own taxes, much like a subcontractor, yes.
Sure, okay. All right, so they've come through your table and they've had some interviews.
Yes.
So what happened? How did you get here?
So all of these people had the same story, was that they were on a direct contract. They'd all been there for anywhere between 3 and 5 years at the same business.
Wow.
And on the Monday morning when they came to work, they were told by that business that they were no longer required and that they would be finishing that day.
Wow.
So employment over
Wow.
with no notice. One of them was quite forthcoming in telling me she didn't get paid out any, let's say, redundancy payments. That relationship was finished and terminated on the day because that business said that they no longer required these people. They were bringing those roles and that work back into their Australian team.
So this is a member of a family, let's say, and for the most part, most of our staff will live with their parents. They may have younger children.
Yep.
So they're taking care of generations in one household.
That's right.
And so they've arrived to work on a Monday morning after 3 or 5 years worth of service.
Yep.
And most likely have worked full-time for that particular business for that period.
Yep.
And they walked into your roles now over, see you later, and no termination pay.
Finished on the
Wish
day.
you all the best.
Yep. And there's no doubt that they've probably built a relationship with this firm. They've made some, maybe not friendships, but some work friendships in some ways.
Sure.
So they've got to know this firm and this business quite intimately.
Right.
And probably have built some trust. And for lack of a better term, the rug gets pulled out from underneath them on a Monday morning and says they're no longer working there.
And what it's obvious here that these staff will be obviously upset and didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And so that's probably pretty poor. And there's some change management opportunity there for that business to think about.
Yeah.
But what's the impact if we're talking about a family member who's typically the breadwinner for the family here in the Philippines? What's the impact on their family? Surely their life changes straight away.
Instant life change, hunting jobs within the day, looking for somewhere to work just to bring the income back in. All of them, like in this case, all of those people are available to start a new role ASAP.
Yes.
But it's a big life change to go from thinking you have a role and you're safe and you've built this relationship with your business and you feel secure to say, no, we no longer need you. But not only that, the lack of respect to give no notice and not be paid out any sort of like redundancy pay.
Yes.
That, it probably does, for me anyway, it doesn't strike a great chord.
Yeah.
And I definitely, like I said before, it definitely makes you feel for the people involved.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't imagine doing that. And so the opportunity for anyone that would like to come work with us is that from a candidate and an employee point of view, that just simply can't happen.
Sure.
Like they're a full-time employee with us, and if something changes in a business and they no longer require roles, we do things the compliant way.
Yeah.
Notice periods, redundancy payouts, all of these things happen in the interest of doing the right thing.
Yes.
Just morally doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you think about, and look, this is close to my heart, obviously working for an accounting firm and then working with accounting firms. And to be honest, just working in the professional services environment, ethically, that's not the right thing to do. And I understand that businesses go through change and there's things that can happen sometimes, but I don't think this is an isolated experience. And to be really honest with you, this doesn't paint a good picture for Australian businesses wanting to do the right thing by their staff, whether they're onshore or offshore.
Yeah.
And so talk to me then, so those staff that were looking for a new role, was there some realignment in terms of what it looks like now to work for an employer versus a contractor position? Because obviously there's some benefits and some disadvantages.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to how that conversation went. And did you feel like the benefits of being in an employer-employee relationship are better than being a contractor or subcontractor?
I think there's definitely a misalignment.
Okay.
There's some things that we can and can't do as an employer in the Philippines. typically things like the benefits that we do, leave days and, private health and those things, typically they don't have to happen in a direct contracting role because they're bundled up in what the person gets paid. So it's a challenging situation from our point of view and from an employer point of view, because we're trying to juggle the expectation of what they've had versus now what's the setup when you come under an employer.
Sure.
And so trying to bring those two things together is actually very challenging.
Yeah.
And so in some cases it's a case of we would love to bring you on board with the right expectations, but that doesn't always work out.
Sure.
And so going through the process and experience that they went through over here in their first, let's say, direct contracting role versus coming to an employer.
Yes.
It's sometimes favourable for them to come across, but it can be less favourable for them as well. So we balance and juggle that. And unfortunately, there's times when fortunately, there are times we can bring them in and they come into a great business. And sometimes there's times where we can't bring them into the business for one reason or another. So I would say employees that are out there that are thinking about what their current setup is, just think, is my job secure? That's what I'll be saying to people out there. Is my job security? Job security.
Huge.
Because you're right, we've spoken about one situation, but there could be many, and I'd be lying if I said that I haven't heard that before with isolated one or two offs. But that one was it was a real standout for me that it happened to 5 people in the same time.
Yeah. I think as we wrap this conversation up, as a business owner and talking with other business owners and managers who make decisions, these are the things I think from an ethical point of view you have to be considerate of and to really understand the impact that you can have in someone's life quite drastically. And if it would happen to you, put yourself in their shoes and understand what that meant. It is probably a bit of a poor management call, but of course things can happen, so we understand that. But I think it's really, really, really smart to be conscious of those decisions, thinking long term about what you're setting up and doing it the right way so that you are compliant, that you make sure that your business operates in an ethical manner so that you've got the right people in between to support you when things go wrong. And that sort of transformation and change can be handled appropriately with the right resources and support around you.
I agree. Just do it the right way.
Yeah,
that's all there is.
All right. Thanks very much, Wyatt. That was great.
Good fun.